I'm Felix Higgins on my day 2 recce of the Lakeland 50, 10 miles away from finishing, and you're listening to the UK's #1 trail running podcast, Tea and Trails.
Thanks for the intro, Felix, and best of luck with the 50. Yeah, taper time now. Keep it cool, nothing crazy, and all the hair, well, any of the hair that is going to go in the barn is now in the barn.
Small little veil.
Hopefully, I don't see you out on the route. That will mean I'm having a bad day. But if you do see me in Coniston, come and say hello. We can have a big, sweaty cuddle at the finish. And it's official. Felix said we are the #1 trail running podcast. Welcome to episode 80 of the Tea and Trails podcast. And my name is Gary Thwaites, and every day, 51 now, and every day is a school day. I've lived a sheltered life, Eddie. I just heard of the phrase, is it raw dog or raw dogging? Anyway.
Well, it depends if you want it as a verb, if it's an action, if you're actually doing it, or you just want to talk about it.
Well, it was the first time I heard of it last week, and now I know of quite a few other meanings. Yeah, if you go into the Urban Dictionary and put in raw dogging, oh my goodness.
Have we done it?
It blew my mind.
Did you? Yeah. I love that everybody thought that I was the innocent one in this party and that you should explain it to me live on the podcast. They don't know. They don't know Eddie. They don't know Eddie 2001. My name is Eddie Sutton, and I've been up since 4:30. in the morning with a dog that ate a whole packet of ginger nuts and regretted her actions. She didn't regret them when we went for a run and she found bunny heaven. And she was like, it's okay, I'm on it. I can get them all. I can get them all. I got so much sugar. I can get them all. How we laughed till it got to about, I like an early morning start, but then it gets to like 8:30 and you go, oh my God, it's lunchtime.
I love it. I just love the silence of an early morning start. A lovely brew, the country's waking up, you know, the bakers are just getting their stuff in the ovens.
The bakers? What country do you live in?
It's like kind of Dick Whittington times. If only. This week, we are joined by Bridget Collier, an ultra running solicitor who podiumed at the 2022 Dragon's Back race and then went one better at the 2024 Cape Wrath Ultra and was first female. We have Tales from the Trails. We pop over to our Strava Club. You could win a Phoenix Light head torch. And we share our weekly dates.
Thank you to our Patreon partners who share their discount codes with our patrons. We have Precision Fuel and Hydration, Velo Forte, Protein Rebel, Tiki Boo, Mountain Fuel, Outdoor Active, Silver Sweden, Active Route, The Centurion Running Sport, Sportshoes.com, Big Bubble Hats, X-Miles, Fallside Farm Cartridges, Yugo Group Projects, Hellfire Events, Red Bear Sports, The Album App, Retainer Group Cycle Protection, Summit Crazy, Beat It Sports, Lumi Activewear, Phoenix Light UK, Bridgedale Socks, Nav4, and Ultra Trail. Extra shout out to Precision Fuel and Hydration and Protein Rebel. We use their products every month to help fuel, hydrate, and recover.
If you would like to save some money, support the podcast and our partners, then please consider joining Patreon. We couldn't do this without you guys. Also, pop over to Summit Crazy if you would like to buy some awesome Tea and Trails merch.
Thank you to Precision Fuel and Hydration, X-Miles, Phoenix Light, and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. Super grateful for all their support. And don't forget to pop over to Precision Fuel and Hydration, book in with Sports Scientist. We especially love Emily. Read some case studies and use their handy fuel planning. It's not too late now before if you are towing the line on a Lakeland 50 or 100 and you think, okay, I know Eddie's going to tell me off, but I haven't planned my nutrition. What should I do? You can redeem yourself by having a little think about your electrolytes. These are the things you can do now before a race rather than training when you've got that little extra half an hour. Work out, have I got enough electrolytes? Have I got enough carbs? Am I laying out how many carbs per hour I'm going to have? Plan, it'll all go wrong. You probably won't eat half of what you're going. You'll end up deciding, actually, I just prefer salami to everything.
It's
but
there
be
for the next
prepared.
race, isn't it?
It's there for the next race. And it's all about mental preparation. I really do believe that like sorting stuff out in those weeks before the races. And I'm the worst for this, is not doing it because I don't want it to happen. So I'm like, I'm not sorting stuff because that means the race is going to happen. But do it now, order some electrolytes, especially as we haven't had a ton of hot weather and suddenly the temperature has risen a little bit. And it's so funny because on Training Peaks, I get the same messages from all my athletes. If the barometer rises a little bit, everybody's like, so sweaty, so hot. So anyway, you can still get some electrolytes. You can still get some fuel by popping over to precisionhydration.com.
Yeah, I placed my order just the other day and I got the email, so it's on its way. So yeah, you have got enough time. If you place an order this week or early next week, if you're a Lakeland 50 or Lakeland 100 runner, and I had a claw with Emily, actually, it's always great to share your thoughts with somebody who actually knows what they are talking about. Yeah.
What are you saying?
It was really good because it validates, they'd been to Western States, so they'd seen all the elites. And they have such a different approach to racing over there because obviously you can pace your runner, you can have support all the way through the race. But yeah, Lakeland 50, Lakeland 100 runners, apart from the checkpoints, you're on your own. Yeah, so it was great actually. Big thumbs up. Emily was happy with my strategy. Give me a few tips just in case things were going wrong. Plan B, plan C. And just, loads of awesome stuff over at precisionhydration.com. And if you are Patreon, you get 15% off over Precision Fuel and Hydration. Also, if you would like to try Precision Fuel and Hydration, then new customers can get 15% off their first order with the code all caps T24. That's super simple. All caps T24. Also, new Protein Rebel customers can enjoy 15% off their first order too with the code. And this is T15, but it's caps T lowercase EA15. That's T15. Links to all our sponsors can be found in the show notes. Yeah, some of you will notice we had some bobble hats and then they went really quick, sold out. Thank you to everyone who bought one. We've ordered some more. Yeah, so don't worry. And I had to give up my bobble hat because, I thought we had enough stock to cover the orders and we didn't. So somebody has had a previously enjoyed hat. I'm not going to say who it is. Yeah, we have ordered some more and we thought it'd be great if we could acknowledge the OGs, the original Patreons. So yeah, if you are an original Patreon, the first 10, I think, we need to draw a line where we're limited, but the first 10 Patreons, keep an eye out in your post box.
We could read a thanks rota, register to the first 10 so they know maybe one's coming to say thank you. Because we say it every week, don't we? We say thank you so much to our patrons. We couldn't do this without you. People are probably like tying the laces, shouting at the kids.
Yeah.
They're not listening to that bit. They're like just getting in the zone. There's a lot of outside noise. They haven't really tunneled into us yet. So we thought this would be a really nice way to show that, especially the OGs, and quite, we've developed a bit of a relationship with some of the OGs as well, haven't we? That we kind of know.
I would say they're friends.
Oh, ew, the heart.
But it does take a while. I think it's about 5 weeks for them to turn up.
Yeah.
So just in time for autumn.
Patience. Yeah, you don't need them now, let's face it. I did try and wear mine, but there's a slight sweaty more than ever.
Yeah, where you at in your UK tour already?
We had a full-on week last week, staying with friends and family. Lovely, awesome, but it's hard. It's hard work with. Mainly, it's hard work filling that laundry bag and then having to say to people, washing machine, can you mind if we just put some washing in? Also, with 2 dogs that aren't used to such social company or being in London, oh my God. We keep having to have them in various rooms with us while we're asleep. So we tire them out during the day. Obviously, they go to sleep and then at about 4:30 when the birds start singing, in the case of London, when the foxes really start, oh my God, the noise.
You wouldn't think there was urban foxes, but there's loads, isn't there?
Oh my God. So one morning I got up, went downstairs with the dogs, not to wake up. There's 10 people in this house. Lindy. Who's in that room? Went downstairs and sitting in the garden was a fox, just sitting there. All right, mate. I couldn't find the key to the back door, otherwise I would have. And also I was a bit scared if I let the dogs out, the fox would actually meet a sad death by the chase of the mountain dogs. Anyway, I have been basically rampaging my dogs around. That one, they're not trained really to be on the lead. Oh my goodness. And then when I do let them off the lead, they don't have any, they're not interested in people. They're not interested in bikes, but they've never met squirrels. Oh my God.
The average London park. It's got quite a few squirrels.
I could have let, even after 45 minutes, even Lindy went, that's probably enough, Mum, because they didn't pace themselves and they were just going. So in some ways, it's quite good that I am going running at 5 a.m. in the morning because there's nobody around and nobody. I was just like, oh my God, if the French hunters were watching what these dogs were doing, they never catch anything, but the full pace, hilarious. So I've been jogging around very early. Oh, I'm not good at running early. I managed a session this morning, Gary, but
well done.
I know, but I couldn't get my heart rate up because it's just like this isn't 5:37 a.m. It's not. I was like, come on. I wanted my heart rate around 150 and it was like 146, 148. And I was like, I wasn't really even breathing. And I was thinking, it's just going to have to be what it will be.
I've been there. Yeah, I know.
You know that feeling when you're just, come on, legs. But I'm trying my best, but it's very hard when but this is the time we're filling our bucket, not with running, but with time with family. Have not seen my family since Christmas, and my sister's not for like a year. So,
oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, it's been lovely, but tiring. Took the kids to Wicked. I know you love a musical.
I would love that.
I did love it, but it's quite long, Gary. Long even for me, the big musical lover. Mainly the seats for a runner's legs. Because your knees are
Which theatre are we in?
At the Apollo in Victoria. It was really cool. And the kids loved it. But I was like, by the end, you're on like one butt cheek, you keep moving. And I was like, I just need to stretch. Come on, let's kill off. She's dead. Girl, let's roll it on now. But it was great. Kids loved it. What I should have taken one of those hemorrhoid. My hamstring.
Classic Diacom. They have a really good system. Long story short, I ended up watching Hamilton, but we missed the very beginning. And they have a little bit where they hold you with a big screen so you can watch the show. Okay. And then when there's a break in proceedings, they usher you in quickly.
The other thing we saw, so we went down to the orchestra pit in the interval, because I'm all about educating the children. Go, let's go and have a look. And you can look back and you can see up in the theatre and you can look down, and all the musicians. I was like, look, you can see the musicians. What are they doing? One was like on his Instagram. One was like booking an EasyJet flight. And the kids were a bit like, oh.
Tinder.
They're just, base station. Looking up Gary. Anyway, it was great. It was super fun. And then on our last day of London, we have to be a bit careful with our sudden array of food and takeaway, because as everybody knows, all we have normally in France is Carrefour and about 4 hours worth of food. And so we took the kids to an M&S food for the first time ever. Oh my God. They were me too. We were like, oh my gosh, we have to. So we were going to have a big picnic. So I got the sausage rolls.
M&S and Waitrose, 10 out of 10 for picnics.
God. I could not, like, I was like, this is how, like, I know a lot of people, they just go in, they get there. We got £75 worth of.
You might as well went for a meal.
It was for like 9 of us, but it was hilarious. We got to the checkout, so we'd taken a basket, and the kids had never even had a shopping basket before, because we normally just know all the food. We just take the Carrefour bag round and I fill it up, because we know we know the people, we know the mums on the till. So we had to take a basket, and then we got to sort of the checkout, and the kids were like, well, what do we do with this basket? And the woman was looking at them like, are you? And then I said, so can I pay for this contactless? And she was like, yes.
It's probably the only way you can pay for it, actually.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is great. Because I don't know my pins. I never use my English accounts. £100.
I think it's £100 you can spend.
Yeah. So I asked her, I said, how much is it? Because I think last time we came back, it was like £25. But the world has changed so much since COVID. England has changed so much. We haven't really been back for a long time since then. So much is different. It was so funny. She must have thought, where have those people come from? Also, how many sausage rolls can...
What's your favourite picnic snack?
So I did I tell you what, I had some vegan sushi. Oh, sensational. It's quite tricky as a veggie. There is always, well, I didn't know this, but now there's like loads of veggie, like sausage rolls and stuff, but I'm not sure about the health of all that's quite processed to me.
Maybe it's all anything like a sausage.
Maybe people would say sushi is quite processed as well, but it's kind of like raw. But what I really love about the sushi is not the like rice or the vegetables or anything. It's the soy sauce. I could just have a go of that. Anyway, yeah, we had a great time. But we drove out of London going, I tell you what, breathe and believe. That was 3 or 4 days. Awesome. But the senses were, even Lindy was like, I could go somewhere without a squirrel now, Mum. I think
I
I'd
love
be
it, but
okay."
imagine living in central London.
I think you're just a different person. You're on a different, like, go.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed my runs around various London parks, found some hills, found some flat stuff, realized that my butt cheeks are not used to running on the flat, ran for 10 miles. And I thought my legs were I can't remember the last time I ran for 10 miles without hiking. Honestly, at the end, my hips and I thought I've got some work to do there.
It's different running though, isn't it? It's different running.
Didn't look at the average pace. I've had to just not even look at my runs because I've had a lot on the last month, and I don't think like my fitness has plummeted. Maybe it has a little bit. I just don't feel springy. I don't feel fresh. So I thought, looking at your runs when you don't feel your best and you know that you're just running for more headspace than running time, and then beating yourself up when you look at the average pace, that's like it's counterproductive. It's like, no. So I've got a strict barrier, like just go for the run. Don't even look how far you've run. Just well done. You got out. Tick.
I think as soon as you start entering that training frame of mind again.
So I have entered it. I'm on day 2 of a training frame of mind now. In order to train hard, you need to have the headspace and you need to be able to recover. And when you're doing other stuff, family stuff and M&S food shopping, it's exhausting. It was fun. But God, I can't believe I used to live in London, Gary. And that was my loved it as a young person's. That's what Bridget likes.
Different seasons.
This is a young person's. This is a young person's place for us. The kids can't, we drove past, I say, Mum used to work at that school. Mum used to work there. Mum used to run there. And they're like, they can't see that. So Mum, we can't believe that you used to. Oh, the other thing, we took them back to our old house before we lived in France. And we took a picture of them at their front door. And we've got a picture of them as we leave. You know, I love recreating the pre and post pictures. And they couldn't believe, because in their heads, Finley sort of remembers it, but I don't know if he remembers more in pictures. But they're like, we lived there. And it looks, as everyone knows, if you go back where your first house is so small. And, but nothing has changed, Gary. Nothing has changed. So our washing line was still up in the garden.
Brilliant.
We climbed up over the fence and had a little peer over. Sorry if you're listening and you live in our old house. Our washing line was still up there. Bryn was like, we should pay for tax on that because they've had it in there for a while. The garage door was still not down. All the little things we left that didn't work.
That's good. I like it.
It was something. It was good. Still managed a bit of running. I didn't do any strength work, Gary. And the old strength coach, I'll talk about that in what's coming up.
I won't judge you.
Not threatening, just let Eddie.
Passive aggressive.
You've had your time. You needed that time, but come on. Let's refresh now. Nobody likes saggy triceps. Enough about Fox's, Waitrose, M&S. I haven't had a takeaway yet, Gary, but I have had a lot of home cooked oven pizzas. Were delicious.
What if I'd been out of the UK for a long time?
Yeah, been out of the UK for a year.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, what would you have?
Morzine.
What would be
I would go for Thai. Especially if I was in London. Where I live, we're not spoiled for choice with takeaways, so I'd probably go for a Chinese. But if I had London at my disposal.
It's the regret of a Chinese afterwards, isn't it? I mean, it's delicious and it's so Moorish, but then the overnight, the 2 a.m. thirst, and then the next day
Indian though, I'm just a greedy glutton though. All the bread, I just go
I've seen you. I have seen you. I have sat opposite you in a curry house and you did me proud. Even James, who is also an enormous glutton, was like, Gary, you were like, yeah, I love the naan, I love the rice, I love the curry, I love the side dish.
Yeah, I've got no off switch when it comes to Indian takeaway or Indian meal.
Anyway, how are you? Last time we chatted.
I know. Big improvement.
Oh my God. Oh,
we'll rewind. We'll go back in time.
Let's do this.
Really struggled. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I have to say everything hurt. Sleeping, goodness me, such broken sleep. Every time I rolled over or leant on my side, I would wake up sneezing. When you feel a sneeze coming on, you get a bit worried. You've got to brace yourself for it.
It's like when you've just had a baby. I know how you feel, but in a different way.
I don't want to compare my rib with childbirth, but hiccuping, laughing, coughing. Yeah, I think the big takeaway or the big sensation was still feels like I'm in a situation where I've not really managed my asthma well. laboured breathing, really struggling to fill the lungs. But yeah, I'm not going to lie, I was down in the dumps. I could run.
Oh, I felt I didn't come across as very sympathetic.
I don't expect sympathy.
Okay.
Hopefully I wasn't like fishing for sympathy either. But yeah, I'm super grateful I can run. There's people out there who can't run for whatever reason. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, it wasn't much fun. But then woke up Thursday. Yeah, I really turned the corner. Sudden movement still hurts, sleeping, sucks. No gym. I deliberately just didn't even attempt anything like that. I thought I'll use that time to do foam rolling and that kind of stuff, the mobility stuff that my physio showed me what to do maybe 10 years ago. So every day, pretty much, I've been diligent with that. And I could I think, take a positive from it. Friday rolls around and I had this lakes trip, which, it was filling me with anxiety because there was me, Aaron and Chris. I was kind of mindful I was with the group. And I think I said to you, I was going to go regardless and maybe I'd just go for a walk. But yeah, turned out running was okay. And it was such a stupid rate. I got away with it. Nothing happened, but there was no physical gain from that run. Bit of mindset being out on the trails, but if I tripped, like the jeopardy v reward was off the chart. So yeah, stupid for doing it, but I did it. Spoiler, it was fine.
That should be one of our ending credits as well. Stupid for doing it, but we did it anyway.
Yeah. Again, though, that laboured breathing, which made me feel like, well, there's two things. It was my ribs and my lung capacity was making it harder, or I'm not as fit as I wish I was. One of the two, I'm not 100% sure. The ground over Fusedale was a bit squishy. I use these, I've not really talked about them. I've got these Scott Amphib, which are like the Supertrack Speed RC, those kind of yellow and black, the classic racing shoes.
Yeah.
But they are like a perforated upper, so water drains out of them really well. Yeah, great shoe. Lots of grip on kind of muddy, wet surfaces. I think we all know Scott's quite a lively ride on wet rocks, but luckily it wasn't
a lively ride. You sound like something from...
But yeah, if anybody's interested, I noticed they were super cheap over at sportshoes.com. So if anybody's in the market for some trainers, could grab a bargain over there. And last year, Aaron and I, we did this same run. And I remember afterwards, last year we commented that we had DOMs the following day. No predictions for my Lakeland 100, Eddie, but no DOMs. No DOMs this year.
No, I wouldn't expect you to get DOMs after all the time you've had in the lakes.
Well, I guess I would have thought the same last year, but like I said, we both came off. We bombed, so it was an out and back basically to Mardale Head from Pooley Bridge on 9 miles, whichever came first. We didn't quite get to the water. So on the way back, as we came down from Fusedale on the way to Pooley Bridge, Aaron's super quick at going downhill, and I'm like hanging on just to keep
just
it.
Just a track, though, isn't it, Gary? Did you get dropped?
No, Aaron could quite easily drop me going down. He didn't drop me, but I was in my head. I was thinking, goodness me, if I trip here, this is game over.
Yeah, sorry.
And then the workout rolls around, and again, no real fitness benefit. But I know I was 24 hours and 9 minutes, so technically I missed my goal last year. But how I felt during the race was the best ever Lakeland 100 I've ever had, and didn't dip anything, no mood swings or anything like that, no real highs or lows. So I'm pretty much mimicking last year's taper. And I did do this session on the Sunday. So it's the 2 5s, 2 4s, 2 3s, 2 2s, 2 1s, precision fuel and hydration, fueling, and a couple of 1,000 feet of vert. So Monday, I was like really struggling mentally. Turns out we did the long run. We did the workout. So I'm happy.
Tick.
Hi, Jeopardy. And goodness me, I don't think I'd ever be a coach. That's not a kind of direction I'm going in. But if I ever did coach an athlete, I would say, and exactly what you said to me, nothing can be gained, Gary. Nothing can be gained doing what I ended up doing.
And you ignored me and went on and did it. So you got your coaching qualifications there.
But I was super lucky. It could completely different story. If I had fallen over and it would have been all my own fault, I couldn't have. Like I said, the first time I tripped, that was just an unfortunate situation. But knowing my rib issue, if I tripped again, then I would already.
You would have got such short shrift from me.
Yeah, I am surprised. I'm 51-year-old and I'm such an immature runner.
Never learn. You're a man.
Never learn.
Never learn.
But 68 miles for the week, 10,484 feet of vert, high risk running on the trails. Like I say, got away with it.
Brew with the coaches this week. Patron Simon Holt would like to know how to make the jump from 50 milers to longer stuff like 100 milers. I bet loads of people are thinking that. It's tricky. You think, how am I going to train? What can I do? Hopefully there's a few nuggets in here for everybody. Russell had to shoot off. So if you are watching on YouTube, first, hi. And also he had to dash. So if he suddenly disappears, that's why.
This week's question comes from Simon Holt. I would like to ask your thoughts on how to make the transition from 50 milers to 100 milers. I have done the Lakeland 50 a few times and just completed the lap in around 12 hours. But while I have ambitions to do the Lakeland 100, I can't comprehend completing it with how knackered I am at the end of the 50. What advice would you give someone wanting to make the jump to longer distances? Thank you so much for the podcast. We love tuning in each week. P.S. Eddie, have you ever tried Aveeno for stopping chafing? I use it on my feet and delicate areas, and it works really well. P.P.S. After listening to this week's pod, shouldn't RDs be encouraged to have sanitary products at checkpoints? Great to hear you talk about this sort of stuff. It is needed. Yeah. 100% agree, Simon, but first of all, we'll get to the transition between 50 milers and 100 milers. Russell, what do you reckon?
Yeah. So, hi, Simon, and thanks for the question. You totally can run 100 would be my professional opinion. If you've done 50, you can do 100. My really, really basic alliteration, is that the word, is belly and brain is what it comes down to when you're just trying to get that extension. So it moves from being a physical fitness issue to can you get the nutrition in consistently, and can you mentally cope with that amount of time out of beat? And there'll probably be running in darkness as well. So it's those things you need to shift. And you've said yourself that you feel knackered at the end of a 50. If somebody put a gun to your head and tell you to run another 10 miles, you would definitely be able to do it. And, hopefully that's not going to happen. But you could physically, you found that zone 1 low level aerobic movement pattern that you can do for 50 miles, and you can do it for 100 miles. It might be slightly slower. You could think about it psychologically about, breaking it down so that you do your first half really, really slow. So it's not taking anything out of you, and you're really focusing in on nutrition and making sure that when you get to the second half, you're ready to go then, and then you wake up. There's loads of ways of breaking it down, chunking it. It becomes much more about the mentals than the actual physical restraints. I would say there's no reason at all why you can't go from 50 to 100. And that would be my recommendation.
100% though, when you're feeling a bit down the dumps, just jam something in your mouth. That would be...
I'm all right, thanks, Gary.
You guys, terrible. Okay, see you, Russ.
Russ has got to leave now, but I totally agree. The brain is the biggest thing. You've told your brain when you've done the lap and your Lakeland 50 that's how far it's running, and so that's what it's going to get you to. That's what you're working towards. You're working towards the finish, and then the 100 mile. It's the pain is different, but as Russell said, it's the brain, and your brain knows that you're working towards 50 to get halfway there, and then you chunk it down. So it's very different. The tiredness is different because you are moving in a different way. You're feeding yourself in a different way. And there's other factors that you're taking into account, like Russell said, like the nighttime running. It's a real adventure. I've heard it described as a life in 24 hours, isn't it? You might not even be that quick. It might be longer, but it is a real roller coaster. It's a totally different beast. But if you set yourself up really well, like you've got loads of experience now, you've done Lakeland 50, you've done the lap, I think you're right now. You're ready to step up. You've got the nutrition properly dialed in. You've got a bit of the mental attitude. Don't think when I get to 50, I'm going to feel like I do at the end, because You might feel really bad when you get to 50, but you're not going to feel like that's the finish, which is how you feel when you get to the finish at 50. And I think that's how everybody thinks. They go, someone said I got to do that again. I couldn't do that. No, of course you couldn't, because you've not planned, you've not been training, you've not been working towards this. You take the 100 as a whole other separate entity and a whole other separate, everything is different in 100 to a 50. They're almost different races.
You should be rinsed, shouldn't you, at the end of the 50, to be honest? Like you say, the different races.
Absolutely. You should be lying on the floor seeking medical assistance, so you haven't worked hard enough, in my opinion.
And the pace, I don't know about you guys, but I remember Neil McNichol, who's been on the podcast, and you can go on the Lakeland 100 and 50 results, and you can see how much slower Neil, I know Neil's at the pointy end of the race, but the details there. He runs, I think it was like 8-minute miling for the 50. And I don't know what his mile and pace was for the 100, but they're spectacularly different. So yeah, rein it in.
Give yourself time to prepare for it. So give yourself a whole training block. I would say for your first 100 miler, you almost want like months before to make sure that you're really strong. You've got time to recce the course, to think about the course, to plan, to work on your nutrition, on your pack management, on running in the dark, everything like that. Don't rush into it. Give yourself, and make sure if it's your first 100 miler as well, you're all in. So this is your A race. You do one for a year. Don't plan anything afterwards. Mentally go all in on this 100 miler and go for it, Simon.
I mean, yeah, I definitely think you're fit enough to do it based on what you've done. I wouldn't have any hesitation and like saying go do a 100 miler for sure. The big thing I find with 100 milers, you can't think of the distance. So you've got to have the checkpoints as your goals kind of going through. Just forget the distance. If it's your first 100 miler as well, just, it is a great adventure. Just think of it as that. And it really takes the pressure off. I think we can really overcomplicate ultras sometimes. But honestly, one of the key reasons why I love it is just because it's so simple. I just have to run, eat, and drink. That's it, really. And, that's simplicity at its best, isn't it? Just focus on enjoying it. Have a great time. Talk to people, take the stress out of it in terms of time and all of that, and just focus on your flow, staying comfortable. That's the key to a 100 miler, is to get your pacing right. You've got to try and stay as comfortable as possible, certainly for the first half, to try and give yourself, to get through the second half. The vast majority of people who don't do well on 100 milers, and they might be really good fast runners, is because they don't manage their pacing. 100 milers are 100% about pacing and strategy. You've got to be on top of your pacing. I couldn't tell you how many fast, super speedy runners I've seen crash and burn in 100 milers because they've gone out too fast and they haven't got their nutrition sorted. Have a good time, eat, drink, and be merry, or not too merry, but You
can have a great time on the 100 because with Simon will know he's done the 50 and the checkpoints. Yeah. At the Lakeland 50 and Lakeland 100 are just like little lovely
sensational.
And
I'd just say as well, in terms of your training, you probably don't need to change your training that much in regard. In fact, that you might not need to change your training at all if you're doing a 100 miler. You might just want to do one kind of mock day, depending on if you've done any running at night, etc., that kind of thing. You might want to do a couple of bits like that. I don't know what your long run is, but you might not even have to change your training program that much to do a 100 miler. So again, I'd say don't overcomplicate it. You could do it. Get it done.
In the ballot, Simon. I'll see you 2025 in Coniston. Come on, let's do it together. Hope to help, Simon. Yeah, lots of great advice from the coaches. And if you have a question for our coaches and you are Patreon, then email hello@tandtrails.com. We've got 3 or 4 questions we could always do with another one, and we'll be booking in with the coaches soon. This week's main interview is sponsored by X Miles. Thanks, guys. Yeah, the one-stop kit and nutrition shop. I've been buying again from X Miles. I bought 2 pairs of Injinji socks, and I used my Patreon discount code too. One of their super cushion.
Are you a Patreon? I think we've had this discussion. That's a long list now that's going to HR of your misodemas, what are they called?
Abusing the perk, yeah. But I did use my Patreon perk. Apologies, patrons. Yeah, don't forget, patrons can receive 10% off over at xmiles.co.uk. And this week we share the mics with Bridget Collier. Bridget is an ultra running solicitor who podiumed at the 2022 Dragons Back Race, then went one better at 2024 Cape Wrath Ultra and was first female.
Bridget Collier joins us today. Bridget was First Lady at the 2024 Cape Wrath Ultra. If you don't know about the Cape Wrath Ultra, well, you're in for a treat. You're going to find out all about it. But a quick synopsis, 8-day multi-stage event run by Array Events, same company that are now my Bezzy Frezzies, Northern Traverse and Gary's at the Dragon's Back. Starts from Fort William, which is as the gateway to Ben Nevis, right up to the Cape Wrath Lighthouse on the Atlantic Sea. We think it's the most northwesterly point. There must be a north point, which is higher in the UK. Bridget will know all the deets. Welcome to the podcast, Bridget.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Second time lucky. This is a lot. I think Bridget is our longest awaiting guest because we tried to record this maybe 2-3 weeks ago and the guards weren't with us. A bad dress rehearsal means a fantastic performance, so no pressure.
I'm going to get it all right this time.
Yeah, but thanks for joining us today, Bridget. Got to say, Cape Wrath, yeah, that is a bucket list race for me. So yeah, I can't wait for all the dates. But we ask all of our guests, first of all, where are you? Well, we already know what the view from your window is, but you can share with our listeners. What's the view from your window, and have you been for a run today?
Well, at the moment, I'm sat on the 17th floor in an office block in Manchester.
Is that lift-assisted 17th floor? Did you run up the steps?
Well, now I've done Cape Wrath and Dragon's Back, I do use the lift a whole lot more than I used to.
Would you find any self-respecting runner actually take stairs voluntarily? Because I actually find stairs really hard, and I'm always like, my legs are really tired. I'm taking the lift.
There was a time when I was injured and couldn't run, but I could place my foot carefully. So I spent an hour just going up the stairs, down the lift, up the stairs, down the lift. It was cool. But no, so I've got a great view over Manchester. I think it's one of the best views in Manchester. It's lovely. Have I been for a run today? No, because today's Tuesday. So it's yoga in the morning and I'm running with Speedy Stephen in lunch hour. I treat it as my speedwork session. He's younger, he's fitter, he's a damn sight faster. And part of the training is I've got to try and talk at the same time as breathing. Speedy Stephen. In fact, there's 2 Stephens today, so it's double speed, and we're doing speed work on the Circle of Doom just outside of Manchester city centre. It's great fun.
Tell me how this works out. And also tell me how, when you finish a session, you come back to work. Like, is there showering facilities? Do you have, how long does that face stay super red?
I tried to get a running club together, but when I said what I wanted to do, there's only the younger lads will come and join me. Everyone goes off on their own. And yeah, we're really lucky. So from the middle of Manchester, you can get out towards Salford University. And there's a few different runs we've got of about 10K. The Circle of Doom is a little playing field that's beneath where they filmed The Circle. I think it was a reality TV where people were in rooms slagging people off. Okay, and that
is a reality. Isn't that the synopsis for most reality shows?
Yes.
Slag each other off. Oh,
and when they're filming, they have a lit up circle. So we just called it The Circle. And then it's a gravel path with just ever such a slight angle. You don't notice it if you walk in, but you do notice it when you're on speedwork. And that's why we call it The Circle of Doom. And nobody wants to come and run with us on The Circle of Doom, but we love it.
I do. I'd be up for that.
And it's really good. Although in the city centre, if you go on from The Circle of Doom down the river, you get to Kersal Wetlands, and there's fantastic running around there. So in your lunch hour, you see cormorants, herons, swans, Canadian geese. It's great. And then you come back, the showers downstairs are lovely. They're cleaned after every shower. Who cleans their shower after every shower? And today is the first day they've got towels provided for us. So I theoretically don't need to bring my towel in anymore.
Incredible. I might just come lunchtime running with you.
Oh, it's great.
Shower and towel. Incredible.
What about vert, though? If you wanted to find some vert straight out the door from where you live, or do you got a bit of travel?
Yeah, so office in Manchester and home, it's pretty flat where I live. If I run 2 miles from home, we get runnable hills, which are really good for keeping running uphill. And then all my mountain training, I'm really lucky. I live in Lancashire, so I travel to Snowdonia, to the Lake District, to Yorkshire, to the Howgills. For Cape Wrath, I even went back to the Peak District, which was great because Kinder Plateau was brilliant for that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I also discovered Troffer Bowland. Fantastic. It's so muddy. It's great over that way.
Oh, I've never heard of that place.
Troffer Bowland, I discovered it in COVID, and it's like the last wilderness. And you can run up the hill and you look over just miles and miles and miles of moorland, and it's also called the Forest of Bowland, and there's no trees at all. I don't know why it's called Forest at all. And it's as you're driving up the M6 to the Lake District, it's just after the Blackpool sort of M55 junction. If you look right, there's kind of like a ridge line, and that is the edge of Trafford Bowland. In fact, this year I did a training run. It was the Ultra Bowland, about 43 miles in March, I think. March or January, Marchish, and it's great. It's Duke of Westminster's land, so a lot of it's sort of trail, so they can get the vehicles out for shooting pheasants, and then the rest of it is really, really muddy. So we spent all the hour before the race started. What shoes are you wearing? And it was a really hard choice.
What'd you go for?
I went for trail shoes, and I love Dynafit 50s.
Interesting. They're quite narrow.
Yes, which is surprising because I've got bunions and I've got quite wide feet. And a new shoe, I also love my mud talons. I went for the wider fitting, but the Dynafits I love too. Just go for a size bigger. And the comfort and the grip, I think, is really good on that sort of terrain.
You mentioned the Howgills. I absolutely love it there. You could go there. Everybody heads for the lakes. But the Howgills, you can be there for hours and hours and hours and literally not see anybody. It's fantastic.
Literally not see anyone. Unless you're training and the dark's coming and you start to panic that your head torch might have switched on in your bag. And I did cut a run short early on this year. I just got freaked out of being on my own all day. It was terrible.
I get that. We'll get that.
Are you coached athlete, Bridget?
So I started with Charlie Sharp as a coach for Dragon's Back, and it worked really well. And as soon as I finished Dragon's Back race, we accidentally hit on the YouTube videos for Cape Wrath, and I always wanted to do Cape Wrath, and it just meant, right, I'm going to go and do Cape Wrath. So I was coached by Charlie again then, and that's been really good. And also I'm very lucky, I do get to do some gear reviews occasionally, which is why I ended up with the Dynafits. But I was given a pair of shoes to try, and I have bought countless Dynafits after that. So because I also wear the Dynafit felines for the tricky stuff in the mountains.
What would a typical week look like for you? Yeah, we've already mentioned workouts, long runs. Do you lift weights too?
I just happened to come across core training when I was doing Dragon's Back. So I do 1 or 2 sessions of core workouts in the week. I do lots of yoga, stretching, foam rolling, and I do quite a lot of restorative yoga. So I follow someone called Posture Ellie. It's all web-based, but she's great at putting dead simple exercises. So it's sort of yoga-like. She would hate me for saying that, actually, but much more pleasant. A lot of just lying in good positions or just moving your legs in good positions, and that makes my back feel wonderful when I'm running. It makes me feel just much more comfortable in my skin. Whereas yoga's good for stretching out things and trying not to get your muscles too tight. The restorative stuff that Posture Ellie does makes me feel more comfortable on a day-to-day basis, and also because I sit down at work all the time, so I just don't get to move at all.
Yeah, and what kind of running workouts would you do typically during a week?
Usually Monday to Thursday, it's roughly about 10Ks every day, a speed work session for the run, and then another session of targeted certain distances speed with recovery in between. And then at the weekends, coming up to the big events like Dragon's Back and Cape Wrath, it's a longer run in the hills or in the right terrain on the Saturday, and then either a short recovery run on the Sunday, or as the weeks are building up, it would be a longer run of, say, up to, well, let's say 20-30 miles on the Saturday, and then maybe 20 and a half miles on the Sunday. Yeah, typically baseline of 50 miles a week or going upwards.
I think those 2 back-to-back days, they exhaust me, but definitely for Dragon's Back race and Cape Wrath Ultra, yeah, just to get up, then out the door again, yeah, they pay dividend big time. Also, just for maybe the mindset, I remember Dragon's Back race, you maybe were the same. Going into that, I thought, how the hell am I going to do this day after day after day? But yeah, those big back-to-back days, yeah, they definitely put you in the right frame of mind at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think I did notice how tired I was from the back-to-back. Certainly on the Monday, you're a little bit grumpy. You don't want to get up for work.
That's what works for, though, isn't it, on Monday? It's for resting.
It is for resting, but not when you're with Charlie. He gets you up and it's, no, let's go back to speed work on the Monday. If he said, well done, and you can just do a little run on the Monday, I was like, yes, that's okay. I'm safe.
Tell us your journey, Bridget. We've jumped into Dragon's Back and Cape Wrath. How did you find yourself on two of the biggest mountain races in England? Is running always been something in your life, or is it something that you've picked up relatively recently?
I would say, if I run through it quite quickly, post-degree...
there's a story here.
Post-degree, I was sick of being the fat friend. And I was a bit plump. So I thought, right, I had no money because I was at law school. So I was on a tight budget, £7 food a week, and started running 3 miles a day, just consistently every day. The weight fell off me and I'm scared of it ever going back on. So then I carried on running. Then I wanted to buy a groovy pair of retro Walshes. So I wanted to go fell running. So it was about my 30s. I am big into rock climbing, and we were always rock climbing in North Wales. So I had this little route planned out that if I did this route, I could go and buy my Walshes. I would say that was my first fell run. It's such a trail run. It's unbelievable. It was just round the back of Nant Peris. And that's when I bought the fell shoes. The running was on and off at that point, depending on how much I was climbing at the time. Slowly, the running took over. I did the Winter Hill Fell Race, which is local to me, and it's such a gnarly 12 miles. I think it took me about 3 hours, and it was just such hard terrain. They don't run the race anymore now, which is a shame. So then the fell running just started, because with the rock climbing, you climb half a mountain face and then you scamper down a gully to get back to your rucksack. And I just missed being in the mountains, going over the tops. So the fell running was a really good, I could go up on my own and just run over the actual summits. So then there was always this competition. Am I a climber? Am I a runner? And the climbing won for a few years. And then running took over probably around 2015, when I decided that year I was going to go and do the Bob Graham. And that's when that's when the ultra stuff really started.
Tell us about the Bob Graham.
Oh, well, everybody wants to do the Bob Graham. And I'd heard of it as a climber. And it's because you're in the gnarly mountains around the Lake District. I'd set myself a few goals. And I think the main one I remember is the Borrowdale Fell Race. I thought, well, if I can do Borrowdale, which is so short compared, but if I can do Borrowdale, I can start training for the Bob Graham. So at that time in my local area, loads of people had done it, but not for quite a few years, like 10 years or so. So I said, I'm going to do it. And everybody thought, oh, she's just a little girl. She can't do it. It's only us gnarly men who've done it. They didn't know with my climbing, I'd done alpine climbing. So I'd been on 18-hour days. I'd been in life and death situations, which as Jenny as fell running, it's not as serious as that. And so I started training. Fortunately, someone local said, you need to be out more than you're going out. So they kind of showed me the ropes, because they'd all done it many years before, and just trained for the Bob Graham. With hindsight, I thought I was training a lot, but going on a Saturday and doing up to 20 miles, I was very lucky to get round it in the style that I did, because now I train so much harder. But on my Bob Graham, I went on middle of June, longest day of the year. It was awful. It was the year that the storms hit in the Brecon Beacons and killed some people. And that storm left the Brecon Beacons and worked its way up to me just as I was about to summit on Helvellyn. I was in this crowd, right? And you want to be with all these homs running alongside you. I was with a poor Andy Ford, my size. And I was looking at him thinking, if you were taller, the lightning would get you, not me. And I was just about to touch. And you know how the trig points have the metal tops?
Yeah.
And I was like, he said, just touch it just in case you can carry on. And I didn't want to touch it because the lightning was literally upon us. We were in this cloud of evil. And he was like, do we carry on? And I was like, Nethermost Pike's going to be just out, isolated. We are at the highest point. The lightning hit the mast of Ray's cottage down below and blew the Wi-Fi. I've got something about Wi-Fi. It blew the Wi-Fi to pieces, never to be used again. And I just went, we've got to go. And Andy starts running along the Wi-Fi. No, down, we've got to go. So we took the descent path off that we use in Old County Tops, and we just ran for our lives. My descending improved in a minute. So that was the end of my first attempt at the Bob Graham. 2 weeks later, I went again. No lightning, but the forecast, it was horrendous. I was in my winter waterproofs from the end of leg one to the church just before I finished on the road. And I just about made it with 15 minutes to spare. So bad weather follows me around a bit.
Sheesh. I love that though. A bit of adversity. I just think it makes it taste a bit sweeter when you have that success, when it all comes together. Do you have a favourite leg?
Yes, I used to love leg 4. I think it's really pretty. I love going out to steeple, but nobody lets me do leg 4 when I'm supporting Bob Graham's. I always get chosen for leg 3. So it's a shame. So I barely know leg 4 anymore, but that was always my favourite leg.
Leg 3 is super tough to get people to do any kind of support or navigation. So yeah, if you've got a reputation for knowing the route, your name will keep coming out of the hat. Awesome. That's fantastic. 2015, my goodness me, there wouldn't have been that many women on the physical Bob Graham list back in 2015.
Oh, I'm going to guess at a number here. I'm either the 200th lady or something like 1,960, something like that. I can't remember exactly. I should have looked. Yeah.
Let's jump forward now to Cape Wrath. Starting on Cape Wrath with a successful Dragon's Back under your belt. What was your sort of approach going into Cape Wrath? You said you entered straight after Dragon's Back. Were you there? Were you entered going in like, I'm here to race? Was it an adventure? Was it a mixture of everything?
So when I entered, I just wanted to see Scotland for what it could throw at me. But just the week before you go on to Cape Wrath, they'd said who to look out for. And they'd said, Bridget will be competitive. And it was like, oh, God damn, it's changed everything now. That made me competitive, which added a very much edge. But just so after Dragon's Back, a year goes by and I wanted to do Cape Wrath that year, but in the November, I did a very short felt relay race and felt something wrong with my foot. And what happened was I developed a ganglion internally in the ball of my foot. So walking became quite painful. I carried on running for a while, but so the year before, 6 months had gone with no running until they stuck a massive needle in the ball of my foot, sucked the ganglion out, and 2 days later again I was running. It was so that was disappointing. So then the training started again, and that's why I did Cape Wrath 2 years after Dragon's Back, not the next year. And the training was, well, Dragon's Back's all about the mountains and the technical terrain, and I could get on the course and train. Whereas Cape Wrath, I knew that it would be moorland. People had talked about the bogs, so I mimicked the terrain as far as I could. So that's why initially I went back to the moorland areas to get my feet used to being wet all the time, to try and actually get used to running as much as I could rather than just walking up the steep mountain paths. And that worked really well. It was also really good that with the weather forecast, I could be the fair weather fairy, and I just checked which area was going to give me the nicest day out, and that's why I just went back to all the areas I'd not been to for so long. It was great.
Talk us through the race then. How did it pan out? Looks like day 1 and 2 went your way, and then Elsa, was it? Elsa came in.
Elsa, that name still.
I knew. I thought I'll mention her name. Your eyes.
Yes. So, yeah, day 1, I'm at the start. I'm nervous about how my foot's. Oh, because since then I've now developed another problem. Same foot, different toe.
It always is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to tape my toe into position. So it's like, we'll just see whether my foot can cope with 40 miles a day, and I'll just look at the view. And so yeah, the start line, it's a lovely sunny day. Honestly, how did the weather turn so much in my favour? And so I'm on the start line. I thought, right, day 1 was great. It's like 10k on the road, just making sure you don't go too fast, and then you hit the hills. And I hadn't recce'd that day, so I just ran and enjoyed myself, chatted to people, and before you know it, you're at the end. And my foot was a bit sore, so I was a bit nervous. You don't finish in camp that day because there's a roadblock, so that you finish and then you walk back up to some vans. And I had caught some people up because they were on the first wave setting up, so I was ahead by an hour of all these other people, and I hadn't been overtaken by any women. But I couldn't keep up with these people walking to the bus. And I was like, what's going on? I can't walk as fast. And I thought, I've got 8 days, don't worry. So day 1 was great. In camp, it was fantastic. I hadn't recce'd day 2 at all, but I did know that the sting is in the tail on day 2. But you forget about this when you're running. So I had a great day. I loved it. It was sunny. It was varied. Overtook people on the hills, heckled everyone that I passed, that sort of thing. It was great.
What's your heckling choice of?
Oh, it was great.
How you doing? Oh,
It was like, no, come on, you've got to run faster than that if you're going to get to the end. What are you doing?
Oh, Bridget, that's harsh. How do you know? Sorry, I'll rewind a little bit. You said wave 2. How do they determine the waves?
It depends whether you're sat on your email at the time.
Okay.
And the email comes out saying, do you want to go in wave 1 or 2? If you're fast, please go in wave 2. So everybody immediately books on and says, I want to go on wave 1. So you get more time in camp.
Fair enough.
I don't check my personal emails that quick. So by the time I looked, it's like, oh, I'm in wave 2, which was fine in it. It's only an hour. So it was fine in the end. So day 2, you've had a great day in the hills. It was sunny again. It was just giving to us the views and the people and the banter. It was great. The last 10K is a killer. It looks like rolling hills on the map, and it's just up and a little bit down, up and a little bit down, up, and it's really technical paths along the lock. Paths along locks are really demanding, and everyone who warned you about it, they're not lying. It's really tough. And there was this yacht on the lock, and it was just going by the wind, and I was trying to keep pace with this yacht, and it was just, thank God it tacked backwards. Otherwise I would never have kept pace with it. It was so hard. Ran into camp, and it was just lovely again. The camp at the end of day 2 is gorgeous. You're on the lock I can't remember the name of, and it was sunny. There were no midges. It was glorious. So I was thinking, yeah, I've got it. And you get you get half an hour's Wi-Fi with area events because they're so organised. So I read my WhatsApp message. Oh, you're in the lead. You're in your lead. You're doing well. I was like, oh, I've got a bit more of a lead on day 2. It's going well. Day 3. Now, day 3 was like, yes, I've recce'd some of day 3. I loved my recce of day 3, and I'm going into the mountains proper, so I'm going to love it. I was really looking forward to the first bit. As I set off, I misread the weather forecast, and I'm long in the tooth enough. How did I misread the weather forecast? I read it was going to be cold in the mountains. It was the hottest day of the whole 8 days.
No.
So I nearly put 3/4 trousers on, thank God. And we're in the shade in the camp, so I was shivering, and because I was shivering, I thought, I'm going to be cold. So I put my long sleeve top on. I took my sun hat out. Big mistake. And how much does it weigh? And set off. And it was glorious. It was beating down this sunshine, and I knew I was in trouble. So I rolled my sleeves up. I started dunking my buff in the rivers. It was fine, and I just didn't have it in my legs. When you set off on some days, and what's going wrong?
Yeah, most days.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and as soon as I set off, what's wrong? And all day I felt awful, to the point that running into camp, you're going down this hill into camp on the end of day 3. I had to get my poles out to run downhill, and I don't like using poles. I only use them on the longest days, and my legs were wobbly. I didn't know what was wrong. And I knew I'd lost my lead.
Oh, no.
And I'm really strong on the hills. But that day, all I could hear was clitter-clatter of poles and feet coming up, catching up with me. Hello. And then overtake. And I was like, what's wrong?
Were you feeling quite demoralised then, though? As an athlete,
Yes.
I think that would really kind of get on top of me. And day 3, is that the first of the big days? I know there's a couple of big days within the 8. Is that one of them, day 3?
Day 3 is the biggest day, I think. It's not the longest day, but it's the hardest day. And it's in the literature that it's the one to train for. And the sun on top, I think a lot of people changed the Explorer on that day. The sun just beat down. And yet it was relentless. It was demoralising, and it was demoralising quite early on, because by that point in my head, it was like, I want to win. I want to run as hard as I can. And I knew I wasn't running as hard as I could.
Did you go right, I got to eat loads? How do you turn this around? Because it's only day 3.
Well, in camp, Elsa was already in camp, and she was sat in the river that you have to cross to get into camp. And she looked up, she went, well done. And I was like, oh, that wasn't well done at all. That was really poorly done. And as I sat down, the cramp was horrendous. I'd get cramp in my ribs. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't stand up. So I ate as much as I could, but you can't eat that much. It was really tough in camp. I tried really hard, drank as many electrolytes as I could drink. And that night going to bed, I thought, I've got a bit of a sore throat. And lo and behold, I was coming down with a cold. It's really interesting. I did videos of myself at night, and you can hear it in my voice at the end of day 3, but it was only day 4 when I really knew I'd come down with a cold. And then you're thinking, I've got a cold. Am I going to hurt myself if I run? What do I do? Day 4, I woke up thinking, I run as fast as I can. I've got to get my lead back. I'm behind by half an hour. So I went out and tried and slogged myself, because day 4 is not too long. I think that's in the 20s, 24 miles or something like that.
Yeah.
So went out again, really tried it. And I just, again, you're puffing and panting. It's really hard. So that was quite demoralizing.
When you're deciding to go in the morning, is it similar to Dragon's Back Race where you can pretty much set off when you want?
Yes. Yeah. So you can set off from 7 o'clock. So I usually let most people through and then just set off. I was probably setting off about 20 past 7, depending on the length of day, because I was thinking about how much time I'd have left in camp at the end of the day.
I was always impressed, the people at the sharp end of the Dragon's Back Race. They were chatting amongst themselves. Are you, Elsa, and I think Charlotte too, she was quite competitive. Were you talking together, or was it poker face?
Well, there was quite a lot of chatter in camp, because Cape Last Night, you've got a lot more time in camp than Dragon's Back. And we were chatting. Me and Elsa were sharing a tent. So you go into your little pods. And I was in...
That's hard, isn't it?
It was tough. It was tough. I was in one pod and Elsa was in another pod. And I would be chatting and Elsa went zip and zipped the pod up and was in, and then there was no chatting. And then in camp, I did notice she stopped speaking to me, and I thought, game face has come on.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, she's not sitting with me at meal times. Whereas I was sitting, we had 2 girls doing the explorer in our tent, and they were so jolly. They made it. It was great. And I was chatting with them, and I realised, the competitiveness was coming out, and it was going to be tough.
We don't like to judge, and we know, everyone has to deal with that situation in their own way, don't they? And you needed her to be like that, because obviously she woke the dragon. You needed, didn't you? Because even though you cope with it like being chatty and being like, as women, we need to be competitive with each other to bring out the best in each other, even though it's a trait that people go, everybody is competitive in a different way. And I might be chatty to other women on the course, but inside I'm going to rip out their hearts and trample on them, because I want to. And it's nothing to do with the other person. It's just that we're competitive and we want to. And that's okay. That's good. Okay, right. Well, I'm so into this story right now. So we're day 4. What's the lead like now? Where are we? Who's in the lead?
Oh, Elsa was definitely in the lead.
Okay, still in the lead. So we've got 4 more days.
It's a tough day, but it's one of the shortest days. And it was my favourite day, because, again, you're going up into the mountains around Benet. I've got to be careful I don't mix the days up here.
It doesn't matter if you do, because we all know, Gary and I have both recounted many stories going, and what's the name of that? And what's the... It doesn't. Yes. We're not here for the correct geography. We're here for the story. That's the best bit.
Well, me thinking I'm going to the mountains. So Benet, you go up and it's a nice run down. That's before Benet, sorry. And then you go past the Ling hut. It's the Scottish mountaineering hut. There's another story there, but we'll go back to that one day. And then you cross the road and then you go up round the back of Benet on quite a nice footpathy sort of stones have been laid. And then you get a horror show. You get Scotland's worst horror show, but equally best horror show of literally 10k of ground. It's hard to believe that people have ever been there ever before. It's tussocky, it's ankle biting, it's boggy. In fact, on the race, I fell down a hole and I just grabbed onto the grass and went, help! And I thought, no one can hear you. I had disappeared. So I had to do an SAS roll, climb out. Oh, it was terrible. But going back to the start of day 4, it's like, I've got to set off after Elsa so that I know where I am in the field.
Yeah.
So I waited a bit, set off. It turns out she was hiding in the catering tent and she saw me. I thought she said,
this is amazing. I love it.
I thought she had set off running. She waited 10 minutes until I had set off running. I only found this out a few days later. And so at the crux point of the secret hidden lock, just before the terrain turns into just the horror show, she goes, hi. And I'm like, oh, where did you crop up from? And I thought, great, I've overtaken her. She'd overtaken me. And it was just, and I could hear these poles coming. So this 10k of it's sort of like unbearable terrain, which I had recce'd, and I knew how slow I was going to be on it. We were fighting for the death. It was just, but Elsa just took the path that she could find and did so well on it, I have to say. And I followed this bloke that clearly looked like he knew where I was going. He'd been on the training weekend and he guided me. So he knew, head for that stone, head for that stone. His name was Ryan. He's a GP and I love him because he probably took an hour off my time crossing that ground. Meanwhile, so if I'm going this way, Elsa's going over the hill, over the hill, over the hill, and just doing so well to keep up.
Could you see each other though? Were you visually...
yes, we could. Oh. We could. And it was just like, so I made sure I was chatting, going, hi, hi, hi. And she's breathing. And at the end, you went up on this path of shaly stone, and we were all three of us together. And then we went up the hill, sort of like hot on each other's heels. And at the top, she just ran away. And we kept up until the flat bit at the bottom. And then she had all the power, whereas I had the cold. And she just ran off into camp. And we ended up back into camp. It was a fantastic day's running and racing. It was really good. Just outside the tent, I had flopped because I'm still suffering from cramp at the end of every day. So I lay on the floor making the most outrageous noises with cramp. And Elsa said, oh, I'm just going to go and have a wash in the stream. And she'd left a ticket of how long the day had been. And when she wasn't looking, I turned it over and had a quick look at her time. And it was just like, oh, I think I'm back in the lead. But I hadn't done well. And at that point, we were really close. So I'd got back some time, but just not enough. So it was really good. In fact,
I would have done the same, Bridget. I would have looked at the times, 100%.
I was sneaky lot.
Day 5 now, you mentioned cramp, but how was your feet, blisters, or had all that tussock running that you'd been doing in training, and that kind of paid off?
No, day 5. So the foot that I was really worried about, I had to retape in my toe into position every day. That foot was brilliant. It didn't cause me any problems. I knew when you get to about 20 miles, I have to take paracetamol, but that was working well. The left foot, I think it was about day 3, one of my toenails decided it wanted to exit this world, and it was really sore. So I just taped it up, and the violence of running all day was fine. But at night, I had to sleep with my foot off the end of my sleeping mat because it was just throbbing. I had to tape up. So the toenail did actually come off about a week after Cape Wrath, and it looked pretty infected. But when I had tape on it, you couldn't see it. So luckily, never any blisters, and everything went well.
Day 6, I'm fully invested. Day 6, how did that pan out?
Right, so day 6 is the longest day. The first bit's up and over moorland, and again, I just couldn't cope with the puffing and panting over the moorland bit. But you go up and over, and I was with a bunch of people, and then you've got a lot of, so the profile is up and over, then loads of flat, and then up and over. And on the flat bit, it was just a case of just keep trotting. It worked really well. And I spent most of day 6 all on my Todd. And I didn't see people after that first bit. I was mainly on my own. There was a guy in a yellowy top that was behind me, was in front of me, was behind me again. I thought day 6 was going to be boring. And day 6 was another favourite. The first bit, I think you get to Ockle Bridge in the middle. Again, if you're on the Explorer course, they all do the first half because they can have a pint of beer in the Ocklebridge Hotel. I asked them to describe it to me because it was so wanted to stop. The birds were singing, and I just trotted along listening to the birds and singing sometimes, and just having a great day. And day 6 was where I thought, I can't race. I can only be here. I can enjoy my race. I came here to enjoy the Highlands. I didn't come here to race.
What is this beast I have created?
I know. So actually, day 6 was the turning point of I just need to enjoy myself.
Just relax.
And goddamn, that was the day that my running started coming back into my legs. And it just shows it really was a transition mentally into, by enjoying myself, I was running my best. And I will take that lesson with me from Cape Wrath, that it's about running your best. And that really, really helped, actually. It was just such an enjoyable day. The second half, you're then going back into the hills a bit. So you're running along. The Cape Wrath, they weren't allowed to use the usual path of going up into the forest and down. So we had to run along this fishing river. I tell you, it was gorgeous. They'd mowed a little lawn for the fishermen to walk along next to this beautiful salmon fishing river. It was just gorgeous. It was green, it was blue. Loved that. I do remember that day I had my jacket on. I got very sweaty, but I wasn't stopping to take it off because that was extra time. And the path it was so enjoyable. Then at the end, you go back into the mountains and you just go up and over this mountain. And I'd recce the second half of that day, which really, really helped. I knew the pathless bit was tricky and I was going to be slow. And I just looked at the hill and somehow I just got the way right. It was right and it was better than on my recce. So I was much faster. And a lot of people, they stuck on this lovely trail that you're on, and the trail takes you up the hill. So instead of leaving the trail and going up that way, they went up and over this hill. I did notice poor Elsa went halfway up the hill, and not only was that the wrong way, she got a 5-minute penalty.
And where's Charlotte in all of this?
Yes, Charlotte that day had overtaken me at the start, and she was going really well on the moorland area. And I'd passed Charlotte most days and said hello. And so that was kind of like my marker. I'm not running my best here, but I overtook her over the moorland and thought, no, I'm okay now. I'm running back at my normal pace on the flat a bit. There was another girl, it's Elise, I think, from America, and she was running really strong. And I was more worried about her at the time. But unfortunately, she got problems with her knees, but not on that day. On that day, she was running well. But I don't remember passing her on that day.
Did you change any of your fueling or nutrition because you kept getting these cramps? What was your fueling and nutrition plan like? And did you have to sort of adapt on the fly when you got the whole body cramps?
Yes, I made sure I drank. So I run with Mountain Fuel drink, and I just made sure I had more of them. My eating went downhill. So I always run with salty nuts and sweet nuts and lots of nutty bars. And as the race went on, my ability to keep eating just waned. It was shocking in the end. And your tummy's rumbling and you think, let it rumble. So I did try and eat more nuts and get more salt in. But no, I managed the cramp whilst running. It was just back in camp when I struggled.
Did you have a little luxury in your drop bag? I remember Dragon's Back race. Can of Coke got me through those days. Is it pretty much the same format, just different geography?
No, it's very different. So on Cape Wrath, you have to carry a tracker that's about as big as your hand. It's massive, and you shove it in your rucksack and you think, God, all the way. And so it's bigger tracker because you're in the wilderness. There's no drop bag halfway through. So you've got to carry all your food for the day. And with these transmitters, you've got to go through the checkpoints, but you don't have to dib, which is good because on Dragon's Back, I missed out a checkpoint. I just forgot about it and I was gutted, got a 50-minute penalty. Whereas on Cape Wrath, so long as you're going through the checkpoints, you're all right. But the loss of the drop bag is a worry. You're worried that, you've got spare kit in case anything goes wrong, and you've got little bits of food to look forward for, and you've got none of that on Cape Wrath. And if something goes wrong, in fact, the lead guy early on, I think it was that dreaded day 3, Lewis was sat there. I said, what's wrong? He says, I've got a blister. I said, I've got tape. And because I was worried about my feet, so I carried tape. And so you've got to think carefully about your little spare bits that you might rely on in your sack. I'm usually pretty good at fueling, and I didn't take any treat food with me. I carry a lot of food that surprisingly I buy from M&S. They've got a great selection of running food. It's M&S nuts.
Percy
Absolutely.
Pigs.
Yes, Percy Pigs, M&S nuts, M&S nutty bars, M&S Turkish Delight. That's great. And then a few other bits and bobs, because of course, everything you train with, you just then start to ban it. I loved the Velo Forte bars, but they were just too heavy to get down. Yeah. So, Zoom bars, loved the Zoom bars. I could get those down, and generally started to eat less and less on the run, which isn't ideal, which is why I then just went back to drink as much as you can, try and get some fuel that way.
How was your admin in camp? Because that's a big part of these multi-day races. Coming from Dragon's Back, you've got a bit of experience of coming in and sorting your kit out and stuff. Were you a bag everywhere, stuff everywhere sort of gal, or are you everything has its place, everything has an order?
I'd like to say I was organised, but on Dragon's Back, perfect. I was so organised. I was in camp, protein shake, do your kit, do this, eat, go to bed. Cape Wrath, all went out through the window. It was just like, there were 5 of us in the tent, and Kirsten would sleep in the middle, so we all had a pod each. So I emptied everything everywhere.
Too much space, too much time.
Yeah, too much space. And the protein shake, I even missed out protein shakes on the last 2 days. How bad is that? Yeah, it just left my kit everywhere. I was really, really hot on the SIS electrolyte tablets. I did swear by those. I had at least one when I got into camp. I had one just before going to bed. And then in the mornings, because you only setting off sometime around 7, half 7, I started to pack my bag in the morning as much as I might pack it at night. So no, I was really laid back and enjoyed it for that. Actually, I thought, different style of doing it.
There's no right or wrong. Like people say, oh, you've got to be like super organized. But if that's not you, don't try and recreate, do what works for you. But know that whatever version of yourself, it needs to be that best version of yourself. So if you're a bit more laid back with your kit, be more laid back, but don't be the person in the tent with your pants in someone else's pod. Gary.
Yeah.
I think I was spooning with Russell at some point in Dragon's Back race. We'd roll into each other. Day 8, right? We're going to fast forward a bit to day 8. In an ideal world, that would be, you'd relax, you'd enjoy the moment. Instead, I think you're in the trenches. Yeah. What was day 8 like? Are you running scared, or did you manage to enjoy some of it?
Well, as I came in on day 7, people were saying, "Oh, you've got a good lead," but you just don't believe it until you're at the finish line. So day 8, no, I was running scared. Coach had been on and said, "Enjoy, it's your day." So I tried to enjoy it, and I did, but I had what I was going to do, and I was going to set out. I was going to show who is boss, and so as we left, it's really funny actually. On day 8, it was just like, I'm going to lead the way. So me and Danny were supposed to set off as lead woman and lead bloke at the same time, and I think right from the start I was out there like flipping roadrunner. I'd wrecked from the camp how to get to the road and where to go down the road, because it was quite complicated getting out of the sports centre or the school that we were staying in. And we ran down the road. And if you're going to do Cape Wrath last day, you have to run into the church, around the side of the church and out the other side. So there's a bunch of about 10 of us. We all get to the church gate. It's just like, oh, it's a church. We must have missed the footpath. So we all turn round, get our maps out, and we were 5 minutes from camp. And I was like, day 8, I've got to show who's boss. Elsa could still catch up. She's only, 20 minutes behind if I go over on my ankle or anything like that. So I went out, and it was just like, I am determined. I was feeling a little bit better as well from the cold. So I struck the road to start with, and I was ahead of everybody who set off at the same time. And because I was ahead of everyone, it's a bit like running first thing in the morning. It was a sort of a cold but promising day. I was on the road. It felt like the sun was well up, because you're right high up in the Highlands at that stage. And it was an enjoyable road run. I hit the beach, and you're so looking forward to the beach. I hit the beach, and it was glorious. And I was miles ahead of everyone. I thought, blimey, am I running a bit too fast here? And there's a guy who'd camped out thinking he was going to have the best view. And he was just solitary, enjoying the morning. And he looked at me and went, hi. I went, hi. And I just thought, he's going to have 200 runners coming behind me. It was great. So I hit the sand, and I started running towards the sea, thinking the sand would be wet and hard, easier to run on because it was harder. I thought, that the sea is miles away, just bomb it across the loose sand. And then the cameraman comes up, and as I hit the other end of the sand, that's when the bloke started catching me up again. And I actually ran the rest of the race with a lovely guy who had started the race off with. So it was a lovely coming together of the beginning and end of the race, and we chatted, but all the time I was worried. I tried not to look behind, but I was really worried. And I think it was the last 2 miles I thought, no, I've got it in the bag now, I'm going to be okay. And then you start to enjoy yourself a little bit more, and just the memories of the whole race, the memories of why you're there. It was a special day, but it was still a tough day, and you're so tired from the build up. Everybody just wants it over with by that stage. So there's all sorts going on in your mind.
Yeah, you're getting super emotional. Happy tears, though.
Very happy tears. And also, I decided I like to do these things for myself, but I did a sponsorship behind it because with my work, I represent people who've got a terminal cancer from asbestos exposure. So the sponsorship came in, and along the way, you're thinking about your clients, you're thinking about past clients. Some of my clients had messaged me as I was running, and it was so emotional. Being breathless, because they're all breathless. It was kind of like hand in hand with that. So I had a right blubber at the end. It was a wonderful release of a lot of emotion, to the point that the mountain rescue woman put her hand on me and said, "Are you really all right?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm all right. Don't worry." It was wonderful, and it's the confirmation I'd come first lady. That was it's just amazing. Yeah. I think my psyche is that I do myself down. I don't believe that I'm up there. I've always won races because I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But when you're first, no one can take that away from you, and it's a special thing that in a race. No one can take your time away. No one can dispute it, and it's a wonderful thing, a memento to keep with you.
Anybody listening to this, Bridget, now going, I'm in. Either I'm in for it's 2025, isn't it? Yeah, 2025, or thinking about entering. What would be your top tip for anybody heading towards either Cape Wrath or Dragon's Back or any of these sort of events?
I would say look at the race and train on the right terrain and train hard. Training hard is where you're going to get the most enjoyment out of the race. My feet have always coped very well, and other people's feet don't cope very well. And it's all about the training. Preparation
is so key. What's next then? You've still got half a year, 2024. Any other big races on the horizon?
My ambition at the moment is for my thighs to recover from the Wasdale Fell race, which I did at the weekend. I can run, but I can't do slopes very well at all.
That's quite a spicy one, that, Bridget. My goodness me.
I know. Do you know, I've always wanted to do Wasdale, and I thought, well, after Cape Wrath, I'm going to be fit enough to hopefully make the cutoffs. So I'm so glad to have done it. And so, yes, I've got no races coming up now, apart from local 10Ks. I want to come first in my category at the next Harrock Hill race, which is my very local fell race. I think I'm going to have to work on my climb. I'm going to go back to rock climbing and work on my rock climbing grade, and let the long distance ultra stuff maybe take a little bit of a backseat, because I've also got in mind the problem I've got with my right foot isn't getting any better, and I've just got to have a little bit of an eye on the future there.
It's very sensible. It's very sensible.
It's a bit too sensible, isn't it? So it's going to be climbing. I'm going to go back to running with my friends. Nobody wants to run with you after 20 miles. And I've really missed running with my friends. I train on my own an awful lot, and you become very solitary. So I'm going to enjoy that and do a lot of adventures.
Adventure time. Yeah.
I've got one run in mind. It's not a race. It's in the Carnids, and I want to go over the back of the Carnids, and there's a beautiful alpine ridge line that gets you up onto the back of the Carnids. It's a beautiful alpine ridge. It's a bit scrambly. I've seen some people going up it, so I'm going to do that.
What about All County Tops? Do you think you'll go back there 2025, find a friend?
All County Tops. I've done All County Tops a lot. I'm trying to not do it again. But it's one of those races. It's the hardest race in the calendar, isn't it? So I've got a fair few T-shirts that generally fills my wardrobe, and you wear every year's T-shirt with pride. So I love All County Tops for the fact you've got to do it with a mate, and who knows who's running well that day, who's not running well that day. So never say never. I've kind of got this desire to go back to the Scottish Highlands, and I have printed off the Ramsey Round. So that actually brings in a little bit of spirit of adventure again, because I've done the Bob Graham. I've done the Paddy Buckley twice, not under 24 hours. But I'd quite like to go to Scotland and have a look at the Ramsey Round, actually. Just looking at the map gets me excited. So I'm dying to get out and have a look at the course. Just printing off the map just made me feel quite excited. So that sounds
It's
really
gonna
good.
happen. I love how you say, I'm trying not to do the old county tops.
Yes, but it's a really good tester to see where you are. It hurts so much, the old county tops, though, doesn't it?
That's the only
just
t-shirt
hurts.
I wear. I get a doff of the cap when I see another all county tops. Not many other race t-shirts get that kind of respect.
Especially wearing a year, when you're wearing a year from back in the day, and you recognise, oh, that's 2015.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good year. Oh, yeah, that was the year with the jammy Dodgers. Oh, yeah, and it all melted.
Yes.
Love it.
So no, there's a few races that always are kind of highlighted in the calendar and have not yet gone and done. So we'll have to see. They might creep up. I don't know.
Oh, fantastic. Quick 5 time, I think. Okay, you wake up on day 4 after 11 hours, roughly on your feet after day 3. Tea or coffee? What are you going for in the breakfast tent?
That is dead easy. Tea all the way.
Hey.
Our girl, that's our girl.
On Cape Wrath, I did get a little bit of a reputation because very particular about my tea, and I can't stand why put a coffee spoon in your tea. It tastes. I know. And they have these teaspoons attached to the wooden block, and I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to use that spoon." Or I'd sniff the spoon because you can smell the coffee.
You can smell it. You know, it doesn't even need to have coffee on it. You can.
Yes.
Then your tea will be ruined.
And the
See,
guy,
I wouldn't be that fussy, but if you didn't like coffee, then that's a big no-no.
Standards
I had a
event.
reputation.
Standards. Have some standards of your teaspoons, or I'm not.
They're still talking about you, Bridget.
Yes. I reckon now they'll have a block with tea on for teaspoons and a block with C on for coffee spoons.
Get it sorted.
How were you with the drop bag? I remember seeing again Dragon's Back race, people sipping their Coca-Cola just to get it under, I think it was the 20 kilos for the drop bag. Were you quite tight, or were you plenty of room to spare?
Plenty of room to spare. You obviously haven't seen me stand up. My clothes are all pretty small, and no, loads of room to spare. I was fine.
Well, people don't realise, I think, well, I didn't realise, when you do the maths, if you're running for, say, 10 hours on average a day, and you're trying to fuel that, my goodness me, if you look 100 grams for every hour, there's a kilo every day, 8 days, that's 8 kilos potentially of just food. That's not including your kit. Superhero time. Yeah, you could be superhero for a month. Who's it going to be?
I think it's going to have to be Wonder Woman, isn't it? I mean, you can run around with your pants on the outside of your trousers, and you've got that little bit of string to put around bad bugs.
Shield, crown.
I think that'd be quite good. I think that's who I'd be.
I was sold with the pants.
Do you remember the last purchase you made from Amazon?
You can look. We won't judge.
Eddie, can you remember?
I know what mine is. Wait one sec. Let me just confirm, because I'd never like to lie. Incoming order. It sums up my holiday. A Biff and Bat set and a foam roller.
I was a toilet flush for the toilets. An aggressive flush. That's all I'll say. I broke the handle.
I think the last purchase for the household on Amazon, it was a Velux window opener. Because
one of those like pulley pole things.
Yes, it was the pulley pole, because my husband had used the old Velux pole to hit something with that isn't a recommended use for the Velux pole, and I usually break it, and he had finished it off good and proper, and so we needed a new pole.
In your household.
I can't remember what he was trying to hit with it, but it didn't work, and he broke it.
It's not a 2-in-1 item. Literally has one job, that pole. Bucket list race. Yeah, you could do any race in the world. What would it be?
Oh gosh. I know. The Every Space Camp Marathon.
I knew it would be something. It's either going to be the Eiger Face Ridge 40K.
I don't know why. Do you know what? We say it's bucket list. I should just go and do it. And it's just because I have trekked around Nepal and I've been to every space camp and it's just wonderful. But the fact that you're running downhill, sucking in the oxygen as it gets thicker and thicker, it's not even that adventurous.
You can be the really annoying person you like to be going, hiya, hiya, as everyone's walking up really sad.
Run
going,
faster.
And you're like...
My favourite story about Nepal is that at Namche Bazaar, apparently, when they play football at home, the team that's not the home team, they never win because they can't manage the oxygen deficit.
Yeah.
Instagram story music time, Bridget. Yeah, every week we share the podcast over on Instagram, Facebook, and you get to choose the music we put to that Instagram story. What's it going to be?
I've had to think about this. I'm going to take you back to 2015 on My Bob Graham. For 24 hours, I sung Taylor Swift. I stay up too late. And it was shaking off. I sang that one line for 24 hours. I didn't know anything else. I didn't even know that shake it off. Right? And occasionally, so on Dragon's Back and on Cape Wrath, I've sung that line over and over and it just stays in the mind. And I know 2 more lines to it now. But so I'm going to choose that song.
I do exactly the same with Taylor Swift's song when she goes, "Oh, look what you made me do. Look what you made me do." I don't know any other lines, but I sing that with and that's my legs singing to me when I make them run hard. "Oh, look what you made me do."
Did you manage to get a ticket to go and see her live?
Oh, no. I never go and see any music concerts at all.
Busy running.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd be wonderful, wouldn't she? She sings some good songs, but I only know one line from one of her songs.
2015, though, my goodness me, yeah, hit after hit after hit. Sensational.
Yeah, those were the days. Those were the classic Taylor days. Those were great on the old iPod. Listening to those. So, Bridget, what a treat to have you on the podcast at last. Thank you so much for sharing out. I'd like to say I hope our paths cross on a race someday, but I'm a little bit frightened that they might. I might meet competitive Bridget, but good luck. Keep us posted on your next adventure. It sounds exciting, whatever it is, and I'm sure we'll see you towing an ultra start line again very soon.
Oh, thanks a lot. It's been great.
Thanks, Bridget. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Love that chat. I love the people we meet on this podcast that, our paths might not cross, and we get to see the person behind the pictures. That is incredible. And also
I love the race story.
We love the race story, but also I love knowing what she does for a job. What an incredible thing to do for a job as well, and how she used that as in her running career. And looking forward to seeing, I wonder if she will choose another long ultra or go back to climbing. Wonder if the lure of the trails.
It's strong. The call is strong.
It's strong, the call. We will keep our eyes peeled. Thanks again, Bridget, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Phoenix Light, for sponsoring our Strava Club and Tales from the Trails. Don't forget, patrons can enjoy 10% off over at phoenixlight.co.uk. First up in the Strava Club is Gaz Morrison, 55.8 miles with the longest run of 13.8 and 3,081 feet of vert. 100th over on our Strava chart there. So it just shows you, my goodness me, our community are smashing in the miles, 55.8 miles to get you 100th on the chart. Long runs, workouts, park run. Yeah, it just looked like you had a load of fun over on Strava. And Joanna Butler, Onside Farm Cottages. People would think this is fixed. It's completely random.
Fix. I call fix. There's all sorts of things in the media that I think have been fixed this week. And Strava, you're going to be up there.
I know where you're going with that.
The Trump conspiracy and the Strava from Tales from the Trails.
72.4 for the week with the longest run of 63.2 miles, 12,051 feet of vert.
Sensational.
Lakeland Trails 100k. Looked like a great route. I've been on that Strava map and it just looked fantastic. Top 20 finish in the female race too. Kudos, Joanna. Kudos for that. Jim Semmelroth, 65.8 miles with the longest run of 62.7 and 4,368 feet of vert. request to follow, Jim. So I don't know what you've been up to, but yeah, super big long run. It can't have been one of the Lake District runs because 4,000 feet of vert. Super curious what races were on this week that are going to do.
It wasn't Serpentine Trail. That was a few weeks ago.
60 plus miles, but not a load of vert. Either way, kudos, Jim. Amazing running. And I did see, I've been perusing Facebook and I saw a couple of our listeners and community have been up to some awesome stuff. Vicky Savage, Bob Graham Round, previous guest of the show, shared some miles with Vicky doing the Dragon's Back race. And I also saw loads of listeners who did the Lakeland Trails. Hannah Hogren Johnston, we've already mentioned Joanna Butler, Stuart Secker, very busy Scarfell Pike, Trish Callan, Lakeland 100 Recce, Rosie Warnett, Claire Lee, Sedgefield Harriers, taking on the Ultra North. Yeah, loved seeing all your picks. Going to give out a multiple heavy flex this week. Loads of people doing their first ultra. So we've got Jordan Wise, Carol Frost, Hannah Blundell, Rachel Ibbott, and Megan Wise. Yeah, first ultras. Heavy flex. Longest run for Nicola McCoy. Not easy trails, yeah, for your first ultra. Heavy flex. Anyone who did the first ultra or their longest ever run. Lou Shannon Baines from Facebook, yeah, just completed 5 laps of Snowdon in the Always Aim Higher 24-hour race. The year that male and female records tumbled. Awesome event.
I love the sound of that event, Gary.
Yeah. Well, Marathon Club do quite a few of these things where you just get 6 hours and you do what you want. So I think similar vein, but obviously, yeah, around that part of the country, that would be super challenging. Lou said she played different episodes of Tea and Trail podcast out loud. I'm not too sure if it's good to force it on people, but yeah,
what do
through
you
the
mean?
speaker.
Of course it is. Should be played everywhere.
But she was ready for some beer and cheese and a little nap. And I know Lou, she volunteers. My goodness me, I'm pretty sure she volunteers every year I've been at Lakeland 100. So I'm pretty sure I will see her in Coniston. Rob Wilson Knowles from Instagram, he had us on in his ears though. And he was at the Always Aim Higher Ultra
I
2.
think you haven't put this in though, but I think he said he turned us off because he found us irritating.
Is that what he said? I just blanked that bit out.
I think our cheeriness was generally, I think that's the way he tactfully mentioned it, a bit
much.
like my mum and dad do. Like, it's just a bit, your twittering is a little annoying.
But yeah, I'm really curious about this Always Aim Higher event. It's not one I've heard of, but it sounds and looks fantastic. Kudos to all our Strava Club members, and if you would like to be with a chance of a random shout out, then yeah, pop over to Strava, join our Strava Club.
This week's Tales from the Trails is from Facebook and it's from Jordan Bond. Not usually one for Facebook posts or run reports, but this weekend, 4 of us completed 3 laps of the Yorkshire Three Peaks. Yesterday, myself, Daniel Staves, Nathan Cox, Lee Hatfield completed 3 laps of the Yorkshire Three Peaks. I can honestly say it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. I'm sure it was. We kicked off the run at 8 p.m. on Friday evening from Horton in Ribblesdale car park. The first peak was Penny Ghent, which came at us quickly. You bet it did. We're up the top within 45 minutes. Moods and spirits were high and we were down the other side just as darkness was starting to creep in. By the time we got to Ribblehead Viaduct, ready to start the run up Whernside, it was pitch black. We now had around 7 hours of complete darkness to run, meaning we could ascend and descend Whernside and Ingleborough and more than likely hit Penny Ghent again through the night. By night, we were up and over Whernside, and by 2:30 a.m. we were back to the car park, having finished our first laps. Spirits were still high, the darkness hadn't slowed us down too much, and we came through unscathed. 2 more to go. Change of socks, restock our food, and we were off again by 3 a.m. Up and over Penny Ghent in an hour and 15. Legs were starting to show signs of aching, but on we pushed. You can tell we were starting to flag as we didn't say a word to each other over the 6 miles from Penny Ghent to Ribblehead. This is where our support turned up. My wife and mother acting as a rolling support for supplies. These two turned up at 100% at the right time before we hit Whernside, as they were currently 4 depleted souls trudging around in the darkness in the North Yorkshire Dales. It was 5 a.m. now and we were all showing heavy signs of fatigue. We'd been running for 9 hours and had tackled 4 out of 9 summits. I guess on this, Gary, it's the climbing that probably is a lot of climbing. Anyway, the support cream supplied us with sweet sandwiches, fruit tea, and whatever we could get down to eat and drink before we left. Bags restocked, and off we went. That was the pickup we all needed. Up and over Whernside, up and down to the bottom of Ingleborough within 2 hours, 30 minutes. We had a new lease of life. Amazing what some calories and a bit of support can do. The support crew refueled us once more, and we went for the second time to ascend to Ingleborough. The climb to the bottom of the peak felt worse than the actual climb to the top of it this time. Up and over and back into Horton to finish off our second lap. I thought they were on their second lap. They're not on their second lap. This is where things got tricky. Injuries. Oh no. Injuries started to creep in. Feet were battered. We were absolutely shattered and needing sleep by now. We'd all been awake for well over 24 hours and we'd been running by this point for around 14 and a half hours. We were much slower in this checkpoint. We've all been there. None of us really wanted to leave and get out for the brutal third lap. Morale was sinking. Legs were hurting. Feet were in absolute bits, but we had to get it done. And it was just one more lap. Just under one more marathon with a few mountains. Up Penny Ghent was an absolute slog. We didn't hang around. We just wanted to get up and down onto the next checkpoint as quick as we could. Our runs had now turned into a shuffle. Quads were battered, feet, I'll not go into them too much, but they weren't pretty. We got to the next checkpoint. Spirits lifted. By cups of tea. Now, I think this is the only mistake you made. You haven't mentioned tea before. Was this your first cup of tea? I hope it wasn't. But if it was, you've hopefully learned from that error and tea will feature earlier in your next ultra endeavor. And also bacon sandwich. Oh my God, this gets more incredible. And also bacon sandwiches. Off we went for the final climb up one side. The climb felt never ending. By the time we got to the top, the nice views we'd had the previous 2 times were clouded out. It was my turn to have a low point. Brutal terrain, body in tatters. Thoughts now were just to get to the end. Doesn't matter how it's done, just get there. We had 10 miles to go. We'd ran to 65 miles by the time we were at the third checkpoint. Harriet, my wife, gave me the kick up the arse I needed, and off we went again for the final climb. Up Ingleborough in 45 minutes. Not sure how, but it happened. I strangely felt fresh by this point. Aches and pains seemed to have diminished, maybe knowing it was nearly finished. Over to the trig point and then back down. We grinded it out and boarded in at 24 hours, 43 minutes. Unreal efforts to push through when it felt we had nothing left to give. We'd ran for 24 hours straight over the course of 75 miles. We'd summited 9 peaks in total, ran through total sleep deprivation and pushed one another until the very end. In April 2023, I'd started running. I'd hardly been able to manage a 5K. Just over a year later, I'm running ultra marathons and have just finished the mammoth task of 3 laps of the Yorkshire Three Peaks. While I was running, thoughts of what other runners in the community do to achieve their goals. Eddie's story of Northern Traverse and the Spine, Gary's tales of dragons' backs, a guest they have on the podcast with some absolutely crazy efforts and achievements. They all play a part, and since started ultra running, I found that this is way more than just a hobby. It's a community. Everyone roots for each other. This took a hell of a lot of training, a hell of a lot of high mileage runs, but mainly a hell of a lot of determination. The latter will get you where you want to be. Did someone say 4 laps? Oh my goodness. Because of course 4 laps would be 100 miles.
Yes.
There's only one way to go, Jordan. There's only one way to go.
Goodness. And from April 2023, it's absolutely mind-blowing.
We would almost go as far as saying sensational. Incredible. I love an adventure. I love the fact he did that with his mates, a bit of homegrown support.
Yeah.
And I always think that's much harder than a race. Because there's nobody going, you haven't got any cutoffs. You could stay sitting down. You could just call time, but they didn't. They went on and did it, and they just set their own adventure. Love it. Congrats to all of you. Thanks again, Phoenix Light, for sponsoring Tales from the Trails. We love sharing your Tales from the Trails. Keep them coming. Please email them to hello@tandtrails.com. And after, Gary, how many years have we been doing this? 800?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, about 800 years. Feels
Gary
like
has just, in the pre-recording of this podcast, shared the email account with me. I finally have made the next. Would you say it was a promotion after my yearly review?
You're in the room.
I'm in the room. I have access to the email. So prepare yourself, everybody. If you email in, you're going to get not only a reply, which often you maybe haven't get.
Oi!
Oi, oi, oi. I'm only joking. I do it. We share the workload. Sort of. But I'm hoping I can help a little bit with the emails, Gary. I'll do my best. So if you get 2 replies, it might take a bit of sharing. It might take a bit of
work in progress. We'll be
work in progress. But do email us. We love it. hello@tandtrails.com. Even just to say hi. I love a friendly email because so many emails are either just rubbish or they're like, pay this bill. Top up this bank card.
Just a hi with no agenda. Just
hi, Eddie. Hi, Eddie. How you doing? Love the podcast. Love,
There's
Mum.
always an agenda. For the month of July, our awesome friends Phoenix Light are providing the prizes. We have 2 Phoenix HM65R-T version 2 head torches to give away. Pretty sure this is going to be my Lakeland 100 head torch.
I've got one. I haven't tried it.
Well,
think
yeah,
you need
it's
to
like,
just
how'd you
wake
try
me
it?
up, wake me up even earlier in order for me to try. Yeah, there's not much. What, 11 till
Yeah.
10:30
there's
till
not much.
3, really?
But I put them all of my head
Gotcha.
torches with the spare batteries because Lakeland 100, you have to carry spare battery. I put them all on scales, and this and the combination of the spare battery, it's the lightest combo. So pretty sure. And the lumens, my goodness me, I think full blast.
What
but
is the
1600.
lumens?
Full tilt, 1600, I think. But yeah, you're never going to use that because it'll probably only last about 2 hours or something like that. But 400 will get, I think even maybe 600 on a, they've got a white light and a warm light. Oh God, I've gone into all the dates now. But I think
I
the
love
warm
it.
light,
No, keep going.
well, the warm light, I think it goes up to 600. I could be wrong, but then you obviously don't get as much burn time as the 400. But you only need from, like you said, about maybe 10 o'clock till 5 or 6 o'clock.
And a great tip, if you've not worn a head torch before, you haven't had much time to practice, is turn it down to the dimmest you can manage to go uphill when you don't need a really bright light, or get in behind somebody and use, that's what I do, use their head torch, or run alongside them. And then I always go full beam going downhill, Gary, because I prefer to be able to see. Bryn never turns his up to full beam, and I don't know how he manages, because I'm always like, whoa, 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 and then I go too far on the switches and it turns off and I'm plunged into.
But it is super easy to navigate. Sometimes there's like some secret code you've got to enter to get the head torch to do a certain thing. This is pretty simple to operate.
I can't be doing with any of that. I mean, it's enough to just sort out like food in a bag, let alone like you need to program into your phone the light and just turn it on and a dimmer switch. It's a bit like my brain. Just need those settings: dim, light, bright, and off.
I'm going to put it in my fanny pack though, so I don't have to take my backpack off and everything to get the head torch.
Stop it! The crowd go wild. I love it. Yeah, and have it accessible. Yeah, have it accessible so you can get it out.
I'm pretty sure it was Sabrina Vijay the first year.
Did she start in a head torch?
Not last year, not that I'm kind of really stalking Sabrina, but I'm pretty sure the first year she started with a head torch. I
mean, that's a lot of running, because I do find after a while it's just not super comfortable to have on. I told you about in the spine when I put it on at 1 p.m. thinking that it was almost getting dark, and I ran for it all day on my head because I thought it's really not getting dark yet. And then I found out the time. I was like, oh,
goodness me.
It's lunchtime.
I love it. Oh, I think we've got a competition. I should be.
Yes, sorry. Where did we get to? Oh, and people were worried about being not being entered if they were high level patrons. All patrons good.
Everybody,
we
legend and above.
We don't judge by what you give. A little bit we do, but
a little bit judgy. But yeah, everyone who's a legend or above. So we have.
You're all legends. You're all legends.
You're all legends. Everybody goes in the pot. So it's one for our legends and above, and then one for everybody else. Basically, everybody else needs to like our competition post and join the Tea and Trails Facebook group and like the Phoenix Light UK Facebook page. All the links will be in the competition post that is on our Facebook page now. I'm pretty sure I've pinned it, so it should be easy to find. Winners picked at random, end of July. Ooh, I see 2 workouts.
What's 2 workouts? Done one, Gary. Done one already. I was just thinking when you're reading about those guys doing their first ultra, and I love when people say, I done my first ultra, or I started running in 2015. And I think, oh my God, I started running in 1990.
Oh, wow.
No wonder my knees now.
Those achy bones.
Those achy bones. I think, I wish I was starting my running journey, because it's all downhill now. I'm like, restart another trail. How? But you know what? I always get up for it, Gary. I think, I'm going to restart, and this time I'm going to be fitter and faster than I still, like the England football team, I still believe, Gary, I still believe that the best version of me is still to come.
I thought I was going to lose a few pounds. I thought I was going to lose a few pounds for the Lakeland 100.
Oh, with the
Hasn't
old... Nah. Yeah, I thought I was too, and then I came back to England and I was like, this is Eddie, hands up,
Marks and Spencer's.
It's the cookie jar. So, 21 weeks to Winter Downs 200. Don't, Eddie, think that's loads of time. Don't do it. Get your butt moving. So
dangerous, isn't it? It's a little bit, it is a long way away, but don't get too cozy.
So it's a couple of things that, I need to reinvent the running legs. So we've started. It's going to take me a while to crack back down some, 5-minute Ks feel, multiple 5-minute Ks. I'm like, whoa. This is just so unused to running any sort. So we started a little bit of the process, a couple of easy weeks. And as I said at the start of the podcast, I got the strength. I brought my strength stuff with me. So I don't have any excuses. It's just getting it. Come on, Eddie, got it out. Do you know what? And I did my first strength session back last night. And today I can hardly sit on the loo. I've been having to lower myself down. I was like, God, I only did an hour's run this morning. And I was like, oh, it was the goblet squats. And I got carried away.
Oh, love it.
Oh, and the press up. So I carried the rucksack with the kids' picnic in today. And I was like, oh, my shoulders, what is that? I was 100 press ups. I've only got 2 kettlebells, so got to be a bit inventive with what I can do. But then that's a bit dangerous. I ended up giving myself the worst DOMs because I was like, I can do loads of this. And when you go in the gym, you tend not to do that many exercises because you do quite heavy weights. And then when you're not, and you do loads of planks and things.
Love it.
So back on it. 21 weeks. It feels like a long time, but I've got to have about 4 weeks of getting
back. 3 weeks, the habit, before you kind of form a habit in your head?
Well, it's not a habit because I still run every day, but it's more, what do you mean the strength work? Yeah. I tend to be, though, like you, Gary, once I get in on the program, it's in my training plan, it will get done. It's when I step off the training plan, that's when things get other things. And even when you're really busy, you could find the time, but I'm very easy to go, it's no good tea. I love the chat and the tea when you're seeing people you're not seeing for it and you don't want to be the person who, sorry, I'm just going to go in the next room and do some planks. I'm just going to roll my feet. I think there's a time and a place for that. And I don't want to be that narrow focused all the time. But now I just need to, the outlines need to be a little bit more ardent. So we're back on the plan. We've done a little threshold run. My God, it was pathetic.
I said I did like a 20-minute threshold run once and you scorned me, said it wasn't long enough.
Well, as I said at the beginning, I scorned myself. As I finished it, I thought, come on, you could do 10 minutes now and 8 minutes now. And then I was like, you've got a long time to go and let's just start. You got to start somewhere and you haven't run properly for a couple of weeks. So let's just rebuild slowly, rather than looking at, 4 weeks ago, I'd be doing 15, 10, 8, 6, 4 strides and weights.
I love the pre-plan plan. I love it.
The pre-plan plan. Exactly. So don't try and jump into the plan, do the pre-plan plan and just set some markers. Have a little look at what pace you did for that threshold. And then think, that's what I used to run 50 miles at. Okay, let's move on.
If I'm not happy with the run, I just don't name it as a session. It just leaves it as workout afternoon run.
Just don't look at it. It's done. We all got to start somewhere. And those first steps, even when, like I said, I've been running since I was 10, 11 years old, we all start again and we all have to start from somewhere and knowing how far you got to go to get that fitness back. It's a horrible feeling. And like I say to people always when they've been injured or they're coming back from babies or they've had a layout, it will come back and it will come back. Every time you do it, it comes back. Like the coming back from my third baby, it was like, this is don't compare yourself, but within a couple of weeks of having Evie, I could run again because it was like, you've done it, your body's done it before. You kind of know, the aches and pains, you know what you're going to do. And the same, like when you've run for a long time, you can come back. And I know that I just need to do a couple of weeks of like, oh my God, this is so awful. Don't compare, be strong with yourself and just be proud every time you do that session, every time you kettlebell swing, every time you hold that plank for a minute. God, I find planks hard. However, I can squat, I can deadlift, but a plank.
That's going to be my homework. Try a plank.
Yeah, I don't do them very much, but they are humbling. And the kids are so good at them, but I think it's because they're light. That's what I tell them. And I think the podcast is great. It holds me accountable because I think I can't go back in and say, so I just jogged around a bit, just enjoying this. I'm like, come on, Eddie, come on. People need to hear do the work. So it's time to do the work. So I also like the fact that I'm going to start to do more work than you because you've outclassed me the last couple of months. And now
the tables. Come the end of July.
And you can get that like when I go, so then I just got to 90 miles this week.
18,000 feet of bird.
Oh, disappointing, but I did my best.
Heart rate zone 2, 7-minute mile.
Easy running. Recovery run.
Love it.
Right, come on then. What do you got planned? You got, 10 days now, if that?
Yeah, 9 or 10 days. So, I wonder when, because I'm pretty relaxed still. And I've thought back to some of the runs that we did at the weekend when the Lakeland 100, obviously, we were over the lakes training for the Lakeland 100 and a little bit with an eye on 13 Valleys, but they were dreamy weekends, lovely training. And now it is like, we are there kind of at the coalface, but I'm pretty chilled out. So I wonder when the anxiety is going to kick in. But this week, so yeah, fundamentally reducing the mileage again. The workout is 3 times 8 minutes. It's supposed to be on the trails. And last year, I did do this on the trails, and it's again over some terrain that's up and down just to practice that transition between moving fast, going up and then down. But I'm going to do it on the treadmill. I really don't want to trip up and hurt myself going down fast. Sunday, 2 hours easy. Could go to the lakes, but I think for everybody concerned that it's probably just a bit better if we just stay local. That big journey just for a 2-hour run. So we'll stay local, and we're going to go in the little cafe. I don't know if to do a half time or at the end of the run, what we're going to do with cheese toast just to replicate the Tilbuthwaite checkpoint that you get there. So yeah, last minute kit check. Instinct Reflex belt. So that's a little stretchy and a belt that you put around your waist. I'm probably going to use that in the Ultimate Direction race or the Ultra Vest.
What's the long-term forecast?
There's no real wind. It's a bit cloudy, a bit mixed. Really warm this weekend, I think is the forecast. I'm not looking next week yet. But what I'm not too sure about, because if the forecast for that weekend is super settled, I've got a really lightweight Berghaus jacket. I'll wear that. If it's mixed, then I've got an Ultimate Direction waterproof jacket, and it's a bit bigger. And I think Russell might have mentioned this in one of our Brew with the coaches, where that bigger waterproof jacket can go over your vest, so you don't have to take it off. So again, that will just be stuffed in my elasticy belt. I know historically, if it's in my backpack, I'll probably put it on maybe 5 or 10 minutes after I should. So if it's quick to get to, and I can just put it straight over my vest too, then I will use that. Fingers crossed I can get a bit more sleep, because although I'm going to bed early and I'm not particularly getting up late, this achy rib is giving me unsettled sleep, trying to eat well, lots of vitamins. Fortunate, I don't really have much contact with people. That would give me massive anxiety.
/ any friends.
Any friends? Yeah, well, I do have a few friends. So we will be running together. But yeah, if you had a job, maybe if you worked in a factory or a supermarket or an office where you just get exposed to loads of people ahead of an important race, that would stress me out big time. So
awful.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Tracking my HRV, that's all okay at the moment. Fingers crossed. But yeah, that's the plan. Winding it down. Nothing crazy. Just
this
repeat.
time next week. I love the podcast pre-race. This time next week, you'd be like,
oh my goodness me.
Oh my God.
I saw that Lily Allen had done an OnlyFans page, and I wondered what would be a Tea and Trails USP. I did look at Babe Station, and I thought, I'm not too sure about Babe Station.
Do you know what the comment after we recorded that? I said, Bryn, have you ever been on Babe Station? I was like, do you think I could go on Babe Station? He was like, ancient Babe Station, if they have anything like that. Drippy, droopy Babe Station.
Drippy, droopy Babe Station. But yeah, I thought Lily Allen's flogging pictures of her feet over on
I don't
OnlyFans.
think anyone's going to want pictures of our feet, Gary. My toenails, even I go, oh my God. Right, I got to go. My kids have done amazing. Hour and a half. Have you heard anything? They have been circling me like, what are those? Hyenas. Piranhas and hyenas. Flagging them off. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks you all so much for sticking with us to the end. Please give this episode a share your running pictures. Tell your mates. That's how we grow. Thanks to Precision Fuel and Hydration, X Miles, Phoenix Like, and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. Remember those new customer discount codes, T15 for Protein Rebel and T20 for Precision Fuel and Hydration. Thanks to our partners and patrons too. We couldn't do this without you and your ongoing support.
Be kind to your future self. Breathe and believe. Progress, not perfection. I wonder which mantra I'm going to be using and at what point.
And how many people are going to shout at you? Come on, Gary, breathe and believe.
Breathe and believe. Keep the shield high. Be like, fuck the shield. Keep the shield high.
You get your shield. Oh, get your shield.
I'll shove that shield where the sun doesn't shine. And please, most important, fuel like a champ and eat to the bitter end. My name is Gary Twits.
And I'm Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode 80. My goodness me, 80 of the Tea and Trails podcast.